let's talk Bulgarians. Potentially, if you had to choose one lower body exercise that you could only do, this would have to be a contender on my list. It just builds incredibly strong and muscular legs. So there's a bunch of different ways to do this depending on your context, your capacity, and tons of variations. So I'm going to try and go through a few of them with you. But let's start with the very basics, and that's in terms of the setup. Now the height for this, for the rear leg, I like to go below knee height, right? And then there can be a little bit of variation in that depending on your back hip flexor mobility, depending on if you're doing a deficit or not, and also depending on the front knee bend. But as a general rule, your support below the knee height. Then from there, in terms of the setup, again, there's two main angles that you're going to be concerned about. One is going to be your hip angle here, the second is going to be the knee. And depending on what you want to work, say quads versus glutes or vice versa, will determine what angle you will have those attributes at. So personally, I like the Bulgarian for glutes. So what that means is, as I set this up, I'm going to have a more slight forward lean. That hip is already going to be tilted forward. And as I go down, I'm almost going to sink back into it like so. That means this front knee here isn't going to bend that much. Now, if I wanted more quads, I'd get more knee bend. But like I said, if I want to go deep into hip flexion, I'm going to worry less about this bending and more about my hip bending or getting deep into hip flexion. From here, this glute is on stretch. I can now use it to help drive up. Of course, the nature of it, you will use quads as well, but this is a fantastic way to work glutes. Now, if you want to spread that load out and go more quads, I'm going to move this foot back. Notice what happens at the knee bend. If I go down now in the same way, still deep hip flexion, but notice now this knee is bending more. Not wrong, it's just different. Now I'm going to spread the load into the quads as well. So depending on, again, what you're focusing on, your context will change that position. Now, what I will say, and this is so important, if you're struggling to balance, if you cannot do this, you're doing these ones as you go up and down, get some support. It's the biggest game changer that you can do to get more out of this exercise. Don't be shy of using support. So from here, I would just have it in the opposite to the front leg. That way I have 3 really strong points of support, 1, 2, and 3 with the back foot, and it can allow me to be super stable. Then with my free hand, that's where I can load it up. Most gyms have way more weight than you need. If you can do this even with a 50 kilo, right, you're going to be super strong. So don't be afraid to use support to make yourself stable. You can't build strength or musculature if you're struggling to balance. It's just that simple, right? Now from there, we have a couple of ways we can hold the weights. Personally, I prefer 2 weights, right? If I were to just do 1 though, say because I only have singles available to me, say I'm very stable and I don't need this stick, I would then prefer to have it contralateral, which means the weight is opposite to the front leg, just because you get a little bit more glute stimulus this way, right? But that's not wrong to say that you switch and do it here too. It's just my preference. Whatever you do, do it for a while. Don't just do 1 week one side and 1 week the other, yeah? The last variation here that I'm going to show you is just with a deficit. So this, as you get really good at this, and if you want to go deeper into hip flexion, for example, you can use a slight elevation to allow that back knee to go deeper. Well, actually, it's to allow this front hip to go deeper. So it kind of looks like this, but notice the back knee can now go lower. And if I try and touch the floor there, I'm going really deep into hip flexion. But one thing I will say is that you have to have the quad and hip flexor flexibility to pull this off, right? So just be mindful. Even a small elevation such as this, it's quite modest. It's only a handful of centimeters. This will make a big difference for your range of motion and how this exercise feels for you. So start light or modest with the elevation and gradually increase over time. Of course, if you're super flexible, you might be able to go bigger straight away, but always take your time with it. There's no rush. But that is your Bulgarian split squat.